What's going on? You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It's Friday, January 20th. I hope you've all had an outstanding week. I know for some of you, it might seem like every Friday I'm more excited than I was the previous week. There's no doubt that album release day is my favorite day of the week. But this is one of those special Fridays where we get to kick things off with a legend, someone that it's really a blessing that this individual is around making music at the level that they're at. And I'm just really stoked to kick things off this week with Cale and this new record, Mercy. This is his 17th solo album and his follow-up to 2016's M Fans. But if we want to go back to his last record of all new original material, 2012, and Shifty Adventures in Nookiewood. Things that I'm glad I got to say on the internet. But all joking aside, love Cale, love the Velvet Underground. And before y'all bust me up, I know that Doug Yule played on Loaded, but Cale, he was there. He was still hanging out with Lou Reed and company. That's what I love about this band. One of the many cool things about this outfit is that after they dissolved, they still continued to work with each other in their solo careers. All of them taking, pretty different directions. And John certainly taking the most experimental with his avant-garde style. But that's what I dig about him. Whether he's working with rock and roll like he was early in his career or whether it's anything that he's done in the last 6 decades. That's what I love about this guy is he's one of those people that has influenced just about everything that we're listening to now, but his name doesn't come up in conversation enough. So happy to do this review, happy to have this opportunity to talk about new music from him. And, please in the comments, if you have any of your favorite albums, live shows, B-sides, rarities, any of that stuff. This is a guy that, as much as I love him, I'm not familiar with everything that's out there. So if you have some cool stuff to recommend to people, to me, please throw it in there. This is this is a guy that he's got his classics. I'll always enjoy Paris 1919, Fear. Those are great records. But it's all the collaborations, everything the man has done between like soundtracking shows and movies and stuff. It's really hard to keep up with all of it. So that's what we're here for at the channel, to share the love, to share the knowledge, share all that cool stuff from artists that have influenced us differently. That's the cool thing. Another great thing about a guy like John is that he's done such a variety of music that there might be people that listen to him that don't even know who the Velvet Underground are. It's wild how many people I know that know who Lou Reed is, but don't know that he was involved with the Velvet Underground. But John's a guy, great bass player. I dig what he brought to the table as far as that electric viola, that psychedelic sound, songs like Venus and Furs, just it's so good. It's legendary what he was able to do with this outfit. Those first 2 records, Velvet Underground and Nico, White Light, White Heat, just masterpieces in my opinion. Just some of the best rock and roll music, some of the best music maybe out there in general. And so to have a guy like John, he's going to be 81 this year, iconic. Again, legendary. I'll say it time and time and over again. And I just want to spread the word about this man. I think that this is a guy that, especially for a younger generation, you always get younger people that are curious and they're dipping back and diving into classic rock and to jazz and to all sorts of music that was coming out decades before they were even alive. I think it's one of my favorite things about, I remember about growing up and, reflecting on music that was coming out while I was growing up. It's just a great dynamic there. So it's really cool. Especially at this stage in my life, I feel like to have new music from John, to have something that sounds so contemporary and in a lot of ways familiar and in a lot of ways different. I'm not really that familiar with all of the electronic stuff that he's done throughout his career. Definitely more of the rock and roll fan when it comes to John. But I enjoyed this record. It's a big experience, 12 songs. It's an hour and 12 minutes. It's a lot to digest. This is something that it's very deliberate, and I love all the textures. I love the atmosphere that this thing creates. A number of great guest appearances, really digging Weissblood showing up on this record. Animal Collective as well, a band that I'm not really a huge fan of, but they're doing some work on that track, Everlasting Days. John making a great move teaming up with them on that song. I enjoyed it a lot. Amongst all of these, it's big double LP. You're getting your money's worth as far as both sides of those wax. And I think given the run times of the tracks, the layout, this thing is really nicely done. John putting a lot of thought into this, and it's sad. I hate to even bring it up, but recently we've lost so many great musicians: Christine McVie, Jeff Beck, David Crosby. It's that point that none of us ever wanted to reach, but we're here. We're in that moment now where sadly, we are going to start losing these influential people, these amazing musicians. And so to have this opportunity to be able to shine a light on this man and his career and hopefully expose people, to him, hopefully there's a lot of people out there that discover him for the first time. I'm looking forward to some of these cool selections that you throw in the comments, some stuff that I've never heard from him. Everything about me just is thrilled with this project. I'm excited to dig into this thing more over the weekend, give it a few more spins, and I hope that you all do the same and that you appreciate it in the process. This thing kicks off with the title track featuring Laurel Halo. Great track, ambient, calming landscape, develops. And it was the first thing that I noticed right off the bat, how contemporary this thing feels. The production, pretty clean. That's what's in. We were talking about it recently a little bit. I feel like we're in this phase of music where that clean production is just what people want to hear. So it's certainly not hurting my ears. I love it. And I love the mood that it creates. I really dig the percussion on this opening track as well. I think Mo Tucker would appreciate it. The second track, Marilyn Monroe's Legs, kind of an interesting title there. Electro-driven intro. This thing, it's very interesting. The music, it borders on dissonance, but the vocals really keep things grounded in a very interesting way because they're freaking weird too. But I dig the religious influence that's there. It reminded me of like monk chants, or I grew up Catholic, so I mean definitely a lot of that influence there, and some of that older traditional religious music that you maybe hear in a monastery. But it's really cool, and I really dig the influence on that particular track. Noise of You is your third song. I really like the way the vocal just kicks things off on this track. A lot of these songs have intros and song kind of develops, but this thing just goes to work immediately. I dig that. Percussion comes in nicely as well. This thing very jazz driven, and it rides this line between prog rock and soft rock, and it's a very interesting balance that I appreciated and enjoyed. I think it's working 100% on that track. That's going to end your A side. Your B side is going to lead off with Story of Blood featuring Wise Blood. I love her. I love that she's on this record. John teaming up with her, it's so good. Piano driven jazz feel on that track, and it's super sultry and mellow for about like the first 70 seconds, and then this thing hits. You get this like little trap influence, lots of different electronic influences, newer ones, older ones. If you're really familiar with John's entire catalog, I mean, I feel like all the influences on this song, really, he touches like a decade. There's something and there's something, a component in this song that, I mean, you're getting a little bit of every single decade throughout his career, and I think that that's really cool. Time Stands Still, a very interesting song title, considering our conversation there. Sylvan Esso showing up on this track. Big electronic percussion and vocal textures on this thing. They're very dominant in the intro. Big vocal. This thing is, it's got this mellow, mysterious, enticing vibe to it, and I enjoyed it for that reason. I love the break in the beat. It's comes towards like, towards the back end of the song, but you get just this really cool acoustic guitar and vocal. I really like the way that just kind of breaks down into this minimalism. And then that leads into the coda, which is great. And then Moonstruck, Nico's song, your sixth track. I love the strings to open on this. I was kind of maybe hoping for a little more of that, given John, his skills on the viola. We don't get quite as many strings as I would have liked. I don't know if that's a criticism. I don't know if that's just me being selfish and needy as far as my wants, but I try not to do that with a record. I try to just let an artist be who they want to be on a project. But I love the homage to Nico here. It's it just, the strings, they open, and then I like the way they fade into this like dreamy, subdued synth, and the lyrics are fascinating and beautiful as well. I like that they're kind of chaotic as well. I mean, everything about this song really, I think, is a reflection of Nico's character. You can tell that John put a lot of time into this song, and it's really nicely done. It's probably my favorite on the record. But that's going to conclude your B-side. Everlasting Days with Animal Collective is going to kick off that C-side, and this is another top track for me. I'm really loving this song. I didn't think I'd really ever like anything that Animal Collective ever did this much, but this song is minimal and moody. It's just a great contribution from them, and they the vocals, the strings, really the highlights of this track. They're superb. Big fan of it. Night Crawling is your eighth track. This is aptly titled. I really like the slow tempo. It's got this dark post-punk feel, great minimalism. Vocal melody is dominant, feeling a lot of 80s vibes as well, a little bit of new wave. Tears for Fears is a band that came to mind when I was listening to this track. Not the End of the World is your ninth song. Seriously chills things out. This thing, I really like the mellow feel and the way that's going to close out the C-side. It carries a dark edge, though. It's really a cool dynamic that it has. It's really a very sexy song, too. I'm a big fan of it. Legal Status of Ice is your 10th track. This is, this, I really like this song. It's interesting. It's got this loose electric noise rock influence in the intro. It's kind of like just drifts along at the same pace as Not the End of the World. So I like that continuity coming off the C side to the D side. But this is, the composition of the song is much more adventurous, and I really dig the way that it kicks off your D side. I Know You're Happy is your 11th track. Your penultimate song is chill and funky. It's got this feel of Tame Impala for sure. I really like the vocals on this particular track. The melodies and textures that are on display on this one are really, really quite nice as well. And then Out Your Window, your final song. A lot going on with the mood on this thing. It's really a nice closer. Piano dominates with the vocal until you get these big harmonies that come in. I really dig that. The vocal element, and especially when John is developing some of these big harmonies, and again, some of those kind of like religious sounding ones, they're haunting, but they're beautiful. The dynamic that's there is just so captivating, in my opinion. But I like the way that this final song, Out Your Window, it plays with minimalism. The piano just gets really wicked towards the end with the vocal too. I really like what they're putting together with that. This is quite an experience. It's not going to be for everybody, but I'm going to vinyl please it, because I think if you approach it with an open mind, it might not be your style of music. And I'll admit, like, I will be the first to admit that this is not the type of music that I'm casually throwing on and listening to. But I think that's more a testament to John and why I'm such a big fan of him and, anything that he's ever done that I've listened to. So big vinyl please on this thing. I hope you enjoy this record. Hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help MB, Keith, and I blow this project up in 2023. Stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews, and tune in on Tuesday night to the live show at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on Mountain Time, so it's 8 o'clock here for us. But we'll be coming at you with all sorts of good music stuff throughout the week. Tune in next time. We will see you later.